So I'd like to thank you all for joining us today for a really special kind of intimate concert by another great friend of the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts, Dan Knight, who many of you may have already seen perform here. He's performed on the stage several times over the first year and is just, done a I like to think that he is sort of our case study for why the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts is important to have in our community, and that he came in this season, he did 3 concerts, and everyone grew a little, his audience grew everyone got a little smoother as far as production aspects, so I think he kind of demonstrates why it's important to have a facility like this right here in Coralville. So I'm going to introduce a very good friend of the center and someone who's just been a wonderful partner this past year and will be going forward. Dan Knight.
Well, it's great to be here with such an intimate audience. Isn't this wonderful? Oh, this is great. The first piece I'm going to play for you tonight is a piece that no one has heard in public yet. So you'll be the first ones. You're the guinea pigs for this whole process. This is the opening piece from the Kandinsky Suite, which I wrote 3 years ago and recorded at St. Bridget's Church near Morris, Iowa. I actually brought a Steinway B into that little small space that's a lot like St. Wenceslas here in Iowa City, only it doesn't have the choir cut out. So the acoustics are perfect. And this piece is inspired by the Kandinsky at Murnau. Kandinsky did lots and lots and lots of abstract expressionists. He was one of the founders, if not the founder, of the abstract expressionist movement. Great painter, but it was his ideation that painting should take you to an emotional space in the same way that music does. So that people should be able to look at a painting and not see whether it's necessarily a house or a bridge or people or whatever, but that you should have an emotional experience when you see it. And I had a good opportunity to visit the Tate Modern several years ago when the Kandinsky exhibit was there, and they had several hundred of them. And I spent several days just kind of walking through the exhibit and sitting down in front of these pieces of visual art and taking dictation, literally. So the result of that was a Kandinsky Suite, which I'm going to perform next April here on the stage. And we'll have some visual elements and some other things along, but we have our best visual elements this evening, which are our imaginations. So tonight, if you can imagine some Russians in procession at an old church that's built about like 1700 or so, something like that, beautiful colors, and this is Procession. You know, the great thing about having a solo piano career is it can be very eclectic, and especially the great thing about having a solo piano career and having it here in the Midwest, here in Iowa, you can pick and choose from all the beautiful things that please you, and do them all in one program. So, not necessarily all of them, but this piece is one of my favorites, and I look forward to playing it every chance I get. This is my own particular variation of Chopin's Waltz in E flat. You know, and it's one of these really kind of interesting kind of things for me to have these kind of creative fights of flights and fights, I think. Maybe they are a little bit deliberate. These fanciful kind of images of things that you think maybe might happen someday. Or what would heaven be like? You know, what would it be like? What must it have been like if if Chopin and Duke Ellington got to meet, say, for example, what would the two of them have to say to each other? Because they had remarkable things in common. Incredible sense of musicianship, beautiful sense of lyricism and melody, incredible harmonies, all kinds of, the list goes on and on. But so I thought to myself, okay, well, why don't I merge two pieces that are famous for both of them, and then see what kind of discussion happens on the piano. So I'm going to do for you Duke Ellington's I Got It Bad and That Ain't Good, and Chopin's Prelude in A flat. How about somebody who mixed Chopin and Duke Ellington? I think that would be the jazz pianist Oscar Peterson. He did it in a way that made it his own. I want to play you a piece of his that's called When Summer Comes. He wrote this after he had had stroke and lost the use of his left hand completely. And he'd given up playing. He said he was not going to play ever again. And his young daughter, who was 9 years old, came to him and said, "Daddy, you have to play. You have to play again." And a friend of his who was a bassist who came to his house 5 days a week and said, "Oscar, come on, get it out. We're going to play." So his daughter Kim asked him to write a song, and he wrote a song that he could do just with his right hand and drop his left hand in occasionally. And she said, "Daddy, when are you going to play this in public?" And he said, "Maybe when summer comes." So when the summer came, he had enough of the use of his left hand back that he could call his friend Ulf Volcanius, who was a great guitarist, and said, "Ulf, can you comp in the section that I usually would use, that would the tonal space that my left hand would normally occupy?" And he said, "Yes." So they orchestrated it. So Ulf Volcanius played in this area from C below middle C to E above middle C, and used lots of the guitar chords there in the space of Oscar's left hand. And his bass player filled in the rest of the notes. So Oscar did the rest of the things on top. And this is my version of Oscar Peterson's When Summer Comes. It's wonderful to have Susan Sondrell-Jones here in the audience this evening. She participated in a beautiful event right here on the stage last December that was probably one of the happiest moments of my life, musically and or otherwise. We did the first performance of the Christmas Oratorio here on the stage, and Susan came and sang the part of Mary, just beautifully, absolutely wonderfully. I want to do one of the songs from that particular performance. I'm not going to sing for you, thank you. I'm going to spare you that, but I'm going to play an instrumental version of the lullaby. It's called Sleep Now, Little One. And after hearing Oscar Peterson, you'll hear where I stole a lot of these chords. And I'm going to close this evening with a little piece that's from the Suite, The Gardens of Monet. And this one we had a great time with. It's a lot of fun to play, and just the idea of just going and visiting Monet's gardens musically is just a wonderful thing to do. It's a great joy for me to play. It was an even greater joy to write. And I want to do for you one of my favorite pieces from that suite. This is on the Japanese bridge. So if you could imagine there's a gentleman on one side of the bridge. The bridge is empty. It's early morning. There's a gentleman on one side of the bridge, and a beautiful young lady on the right side, the other side of the bridge. He steps up onto the bridge. She walks up. He says hello. She turns away. She comes back. They have a conversation. And they leave together. So see if you can hear the gentleman in my left hand, the young lady in my right hand, and the little conversation that they have in that little brief moment on the Japanese bridge. Did I say that was the last one? I lied. I have to do this one. There's another short story behind it. About 10 years ago, I was playing with a big band in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, and it was a place where they'd obviously had some turmoil, and there had been some difficulties in the past because I tried to get some of the people of color to speak to me when I went in to set up with the band, and everybody who was anything but white would turn and walk away. I couldn't even get someone to say hello. And then I realized that just not too far from that, down the road, Medgar Evers had been shot just for walking down the street as a black man and walking up to someone and saying, "Hello, I'm Medgar Evers." And it was as simple as that. So when I had the opportunity to play for some of these people, I thought, okay, this is good. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to say something musically that I can't otherwise. So as I played, we sat and we played with a big band, and the CD player for that evening wasn't working correctly. And we usually played CDs for people in between sets so that they could have music going constantly. And the band leader came to me and said, "Dan, the CD player's not working. Would you consider playing some music in between sets, and we'll pay you an extra $25 tonight, So I said, yeah. I said, I think there's some music I want to play for these people anyway. So I sat down and I started playing this song, and I did. And the saxophone section, all of them looked at me and he said, "They're going to kill you." and I said, "No," I said, "they need to hear that." It was Duke Ellington, things that what they used to be. So I sat and I played that. And about 20 seconds into the song, the leader of the club was there. And about a minute and a half later, 2 minutes later, the sheriff was there. And they said, "Son, you have to quit playing this song." I said, "Sir, this is Duke Ellington." And the leader of the club said, "Son, you have to quit playing the song right now." And I looked at him and I said, "This is the American equivalent of Beethoven." And he finally looked at me and he said, "Son, you have to stop playing the song right now, or we're going to arrest you for disturbing the peace." So there's a standard joke. There's a standard joke that goes around amongst jazz musicians. They said if jazz was illegal, this guy couldn't get arrested. So I sat there and I thought to myself, "Hey, I just proved myself wrong. This is good." So I stopped playing this particular song. I stopped playing the Duke Ellington things they want used to be. It's actually written by his son Mercer Ellington, but that's okay. And then I played the following song, and it has ended up being the hymn of the story of my life, because the people who were there who didn't know the song figured out that I was doing something but didn't know quite what. So it wasn't enough to arrest me for. And all the people of color in the entire place came out and looked around and looked at me, and they got this great, huge smile on their face, and they all left. So by that act, it got me an invitation not to play for the rest of the evening. And they told me when I got on the bus to make sure I got on the back of the bus and didn't let anybody take me off, and surely I did that. But the next song I'll play for you was the song I played for now. And it's a great song by James Wilton Johnson. It's called "Lift Every Voice and Sing." The words go, "Lift every voice and sing till all creation rings. All creations ring with the harmonies of liberty. And there's no more harmony of liberties than jazz." So we do this as a creative movement, as an artistic movement, as an expression of our solidarity with each other, one for each other, black people and white people. We are all together, united, inseparable, all around the world. And I think the second we realize that and come to the understanding that we might as well just love each other, I think it'll be a better place to live. And I think if it doesn't happen any other place, it'll happen on this stage and 1,000, 10,000 other stages like this with people like you and people like me. So if we call it together, it will be. So lift every voice and sing. you for your support of the Coralville Center for the Performing Arts. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for braving this most inclement weather. And thank you for your support of me as well. Please continue in all regards. Have a great evening. We'll see you in the wine bar.